Hey guys, welcome to Home Sweet Homeschool. If you're new here, my name is Ashley and I'm a homeschooling mom to one. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about ADHD, some of our failures and successes that we've had over the years as we have had to deal with ADHD. But before I get into that, I want to mention that this video is in collaboration with my friend Nickie over at Blessed Homeschool Mess. I really want you to go check out her channel if you haven't already. If you are looking for somebody who is honest and real, then you're going to want to go to her channel. One of the things that I find on YouTube is just a lot of unbelievable, not just homeschool channels, but just channels in general where I'm like, that couldn't be your real life. Like, that is not what my days look like. But when I watch Nickie's channel, I can totally relate because she shares real life stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm feeling you. I know exactly how that is. And so I appreciate her content, that it is so honest and so real. So definitely go and check her out. She's going to be talking about ADHD as well. And so I would love for you to go check out her video after you watch this one, obviously. Then go check her out. All right, so let's start talking about it. So my son, we'll do a little backstory. He actually got diagnosed with ADHD when he was in the 3rd grade. And he probably could have been diagnosed with it a lot sooner, but I guess I was in denial. I didn't want him to have something wrong with him. I know how, being a parent, you just want everything to be okay when it comes to your kids. And I just wanted for him so bad to just go to school like the other kids do. And I was a teacher and I could see kids that would just come in and they just fit right into the mold of public school and they just followed directions and they did their work and they did all the things they were supposed to do. And my son was like, absolutely not. He is an out of the box, very creative thinker. And I've learned over the years to appreciate his mind because it is so different than the way mine works. And I just really appreciate him now that I've learned so much about ADHD through him. I'll admit, even going through my teacher program at college, I think we took one special needs class. And so I was never really prepared to work with neurodivergent children. And having a child that started having difficulty in school, not able to complete tasks. He would be standing up against the wall at recess every day in 1st grade because he couldn't finish his work. And it was a tough time in public school for him. And we even moved him to a private school in 3rd grade, and that they didn't really understand either. They didn't really try to make the situation any better. They didn't have any strategies to help him out. And so, we had been talking since 1st grade about homeschooling, and really that has been the best thing for my son. So before I get into some of our failures and successes, if you are having to deal with this right now, either you have ADHD or you have a child who has it, or you suspect they may have ADHD, just know that I'm with you. I've been there, that not every day is easy. There are still days, even though he is 15 now and he's came such a long way, it's still not easy. There are still days that he struggles from the moment he gets up till the moment he goes to bed. And then there's some days where you're like, yes, he's using these strategies that he's made for himself and things are just, you can just see the progress. And so I just want you to know that it does get better, or it has for my son. As he's gotten older, it's gotten better for him. So if you want to know, he was put on medication in like the end of 3rd grade going into 4th grade. And it did help him at his private school to finish his work. We did keep him on it for homeschool. He did perfectly fine. And then when I think it was like 6th or 7th grade, he came to me and he's like, I don't want to take medicine anymore. He had noticed, we'd taken a break over the summer of him taking his medicine, and he'd noticed that his medicine was making him feel really sad and depressed, and that wasn't a feeling that he even recognized while he was on the medication. It took him being off the medication to realize it. And so we talked to his pediatrician and we decided, why not? Let's try it. And so he has not been on medication since, I don't remember if it was 6th or 7th grade, and he's going into 10th grade. And so it has taken a lot of trial and error, trying to teach him strategies, trying to help him through things to get him where he is today. So it's not easy, but it is doable. So let's talk about some of the things that we've kind of failed at and how we've turned it around into a success. And I actually sat down with my son and I said, hey, I'm doing this video all about ADHD. Nobody understands your mind better than you. Can you think of some things that we've done in our homeschool that were like complete flops? And he could, and his insights are so helpful. And then we talked about how we kind of adapted and how we made some accommodations for him, because it's very important as a parent to know all you can about ADHD, know ways that you can help your child, because you're wanting to set them up for success. And so learn as much as you can, work with them on strategies, and then you'll have more successes than failures. And so I have a little list here that we sat and talked about, and this is one of my planners for next year. I'll have a video coming up in the next 2 weeks about my planner, but I'm going to be looking at this because this is where I wrote down information that we talked about. So one of our first fails was unschooling. We were trying to do like a fun unschooling thing. I thought it would be perfect for him. He's like really passionate about certain things, and I thought, hey, if I just like quit nagging him to death about doing school and I just let him pick what he wants to learn, and he can use a fun schooling journal and all that good stuff. We had done like a day or two here or there. We'd do like a Harry Potter day and stuff like that. And those single days were great. But when we tried to just unschool and let it be child-led, it actually led to more frustration for him. With his mind, he needs structure. He needs routine. He needs to know what to expect. And that was just too loosey-goosey, willy-nilly for him to just say, hey, here you go. What do you want me to help you find information on? I mean, I was there to help him. I was ready to get him books he needed or videos he wanted to watch or take him places. He did not want to be in charge of that. He's like, nope, I don't want to do that. I think we lasted maybe a week, and he's like, that's not for us. And so I know unschooling works for some families, and that is wonderful, but that's one thing that didn't work for him. So while that was a failure, our success was we learned that we did need to have some sort of structure and routine. So we're not like stick to certain times or anything like that, but he has a schedule that he has developed over time, and he likes to start at 10 o'clock. That gives him time to wake up and do all his things he likes to do before school starts. And so just having that loose routine, and he knows what to expect, has helped him out tremendously. So that consistent routine, having the planner for him so he can keep up with what he needs to do during the day, amazing. So we turned that failure into a success. Another failure that we had was me planning too much. I don't know if you do this, but I start watching all of these homeschool videos and I think that I need everything out there. Oh, that would be wonderful. Let's add that in. Let's do an artist study. Let's do this. Let's do that. And so I'm grabbing all these things, and our morning basket that we tried to do for a while just had a ton of stuff in it. And really it was just bogging him down. It was just too much stuff. And so we failed because I overplanned. And our successes, we have learned to keep it simple. Whether we're doing just a unit study in math and a read aloud, or we're doing a more traditional approach, we are still trying to keep it as simple as possible. That just really helps him. He knows what to expect. He's not bombarded with information, and it just works well for him. Another failure is getting him to do chores. We struggle with that from a very young age, just trying to teach him how to help out around the house. You know, if you go say clean your room, and he goes in there and he gets distracted by something that he hasn't noticed, and so he's in there playing, or he just really doesn't know what to do. And so that ended up with, I would be nagging, or my husband would be, and that's no fun for anybody. And so we discovered something called the bucket system. It was from Sage Family. She has a bucket system course that I took, and it was amazing. And it really put the responsibility in his hands. He had this bucket that he had the things he needed to accomplish in a day around the rim of the bucket. And as he would do them, he would take them off the bucket and put it inside the bucket. And so you wanted to end the day with an empty bucket. And there would be things on it, from his chores to his school to things he needed to practice. Anything like that was on there. And because we were working on building the habits of doing those things, that took the nagging part away. I didn't have to nag him anymore. And so that bucket system really instilled in him a lot of responsibility that I was afraid he was never, I really was afraid he was never going to be responsible. And so that bucket system and really built his confidence, and really it showed us that he was responsible. He just needed some help getting there. And on that same list of nagging and things like that, one thing that works great with him is a checklist. And so not only does he have one for school, but when it comes to the way he helps out around the house, we ask that he keeps the game room area clean. And so I have to put a list up there. My version of clean is not his version of clean. I don't know if you've noticed that about your kids, but like what I see as clean, he just does not care. And so that I wouldn't have to nag him, I just made a checklist of, okay, this is what it means for this room to be clean. And so I put one in his game room, I put one in his bedroom, and then he also has the responsibility of collecting all the trash before garbage day and getting it out there. And so he has a list of all the trash cans because he'll forget. I mean, his mind will wander and he'll start thinking about something else, and then there's a trash can that hadn't been emptied. So the more checklists to help them build those habits, the better. Because once he's done that enough, it's going to be ingrained in him and he'll be fine. It's just like any routine that you're building with your kids. The more they practice it, it's going to become like second nature to them. So checklists have been our friend, okay? The next problem, now this has to do with homeschool, is we ran into the problem of comprehension. He really struggles with reading comprehension. He did this in school, and he does this here. And I actually just finished a class. I keep up my teaching certificate. And so I just took a class on working with students with ADHD. And it was like, oh my goodness, I didn't know this about kids with ADHD. But he struggles with comprehension almost to the point where a lot of times he will just completely make up something that's not in the story at all. It would fit in the story, but it was never in the story. And I noticed he would miss things on his test from like first grade. I'm like, that was not in the story at all. Why did you put that? Well, it could happen. That's what he would say. And I'm like, yeah, it could happen, but they're asking you about this story. And so that comprehension struggle, of course, flowed into our homeschool. And so one of the things that we've had to do is really modify the way we relay information to him. So if it's a lot of reading, we do have to break it up. We'll read a little bit and then we'll stop and talk about it. So chunking things. We also break up the reading by watching a video or doing something hands-on so that information has time to sink in. And then as far as read alouds are concerned, I know a lot of kids do a lot of independent reading, but if you would have given my son a book and told him to go read, he may have went and sat and held that book, and he may have looked like he was reading it, but he describes it to me as soon as he starts reading, it's like every word is jumbled up on the page, and he starts thinking about 1,000 other things. And I know that has to be really, really hard. And so he's reading the same things over and over again. And so while reading comprehension was a bit of a failure for us, what we have found out works, and the successes, like I said, are chunking the reading into smaller bits, stopping and talking about what was just read. And one of the things that he discovered for himself was listening to somebody read online the book that he wants to read. He's actually became a reader in like the past few years. He never wanted to pick up a book for years. I was like, okay, he's just not going to read. He's not going to be a reader. That's how my sister is. She doesn't like to read. My husband and I both love to read, but I was like, okay, he's just not a reader. That's okay. But the thing was, he just hadn't found a way to read successfully. And so he knows how to read. I'm not saying he doesn't know how to read. It's the comprehension part. And so he found out that he could listen to somebody read those big chapter books that he wanted to get through. He started with Harry Potter, of all things, because he loves those movies. And so we found a really good read aloud on YouTube. But of course, you could buy the audiobooks if you want to do that with the sound effects and all that. But we just go the YouTube route. We find somebody that reads it well out loud, and he listens to them and follows along in the book. And I've had to make him understand that is still reading. You've just made an accommodation. It's still reading. It's just like when people just listen to audiobooks, it's still reading a book. And so that has helped him tremendously. So that's what I don't really assign independent reading to him because I want him to choose things he's interested in. But like right now, he's actually he just finished The Hobbit, and he's listening to the first Lord of the Rings. He's also listening to The Wizard of Oz and The Hunger Games. And so he kind of rotates them. That's how he's kind of like me. I have like 6 books going right now. So he has those books going. So listening to the audio and holding the book has helped him out so much. So if you have an older kid who is struggling, that might be something you can do. Another thing we do is just buy 2 copies of the book. So if I'm doing a read aloud, he's got the book in front of him so that he can follow along. And I try to just look up every now and then and see if he's wondering, and I can tell when his mind is wandering, and so I'll just stop and I'm not quizzing him, but I'm like, okay, are you following what's going on? Do you have any questions? Because we're reading through Narnia right now, and I could just tell he was completely lost because we're in Prince Caspian, and there's a lot of characters and a lot of things are happening. He's like, no, I'm completely lost. And so we backtracked a little bit and got him caught up, but we both have a copy and we read it at the same time. I read out loud, he follows along. And then I'm also going to do that with the books that he is assigned through his language arts program. So that's just something to help with comprehension. And then one of our last problems that he wanted me to talk about was when it comes to math. Math can be very overwhelming, or anything that has a lot of problems or questions for the kids to answer. He gets very overwhelmed. He almost shuts down if you put a whole math test in front of him. And I know people are going to say, well, when he goes to college, they're just going to hand him the math test. Well, yes, they will. I've been to college. I know. They hand you the test and you just have to take it. But it's my job right now to kind of teach him how to break that up, to not be so overwhelmed. And so to physically show him, that it can be broken up into smaller chunks, we just take his math test and we cut it into sections. Because usually they're separated by whatever skill it is they want the kids to know. And so we'll just cut it up, and I just hand him one section at a time to finish, and then I hand him the next section. And so while he can't go in and cut up his test in college, he can learn how to, we cover things up. You can cover the page up. He will learn how to break it up himself. I'm just trying to teach him those things now so that when he goes to school, he can do that. If he has to take the SAT or whatever, he can break up the page so it is more manageable, and he knows, let me do this chunk and then I can work on that chunk. So shortening the number of problems they have to do, if they can successfully show you they know how to do something in the first couple of problems, or the first row, or the 2 problems on each line, let it be. Isn't the end goal is that they've learned something? It's not how many problems can you complete. So if your kids are showing you mastery in something and they've done it in 4 or 5 problems, I think that's satisfactory enough. They don't need to keep repeating the same thing if they know how to do it. So that's just some of our failures and successes with ADHD. I could probably sit here and talk about a lot of struggles that we have with it when it comes to behavior and all those different things, because it has been a struggle over the last few years, but it has gotten better. And so, my kid is a great kid. It's really just, how can we work with this ADHD to make it, so that he can be successful. So like I said, I could talk about this forever, but I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Definitely go check out Nickie over at Blessed Homeschool Mess. Because you're really missing out if you're not subscribed to her. If you have any questions about ADHD or anything else, leave them down in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching.